Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in this wonderful world that we live in. I am Rodney McGillvary.
And I'm Bruce Cunningham.
And we are Ancient Mysteries Revisited here on Welch 95.7 FM in Fort Wayne, Indiana, coming to you every Monday and Wednesdays at 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And we are streamed at www.acpl.info/welt.
And you can find us on YouTube, just searching up Ancient Mysteries Revisited. And you can check out our official website at www.ancientmysteriesrevisited.wordpress.com.
And today we are really happy and something a little unusual. We have our guest in the studio with us. And our guest has been a speaker at one of my conferences several years ago. He is an author. He was a independent Egyptologist. He's written several books on Egypt, including Rainwater, The Answer to the Pyramids, The Rain Harvesting Pyramids of Ancient Egypt, and he's written many articles about Egypt, Egyptian hieroglyphics. I've been with a class on him where he teaches hieroglyphics. Website called Rain Pyramids. Currently, he is translating Champollion's Dictionary on Egyptian Hieroglyphics, which was written in 1841. The English translation of the New Egyptian Dictionary on Hieroglyphic Writing will be available in 2020. I want to welcome to the show Patrick Giles.
How you doing, Patrick?
Hey, Bruce. How are you? Thank you for having me today. It's an honor.
We're really happy to have you here. It was neat that you were in town, so we could have you here.
Yep, it's good to be in Fort Wayne.
How long you been in Fort Wayne, Patrick?
I've been here 6 months this time. It depends. My mom lives here, so I'll come and stay here and help her out.
Well, that's awfully nice of you.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll start out. What got you into the researching arena and basically the Egypt arena?
That goes all the way back to high school. I fell in love with the King Tut exhibit that was touring America and studied it a lot. Finally, I got to college and started studying archaeology. Almost majored in Egyptology, but they didn't have it at my college, University of Florida. And then I met another person who helped me write a book about what the pyramids were used for. And that was 15 years ago. I'm still doing it.
Nice.
Very cool.
Your theory about the pyramids states that the pyramids were built to harvest rainwater. How's that possible? Did it actually rain that much in Egypt during the Pyramid Age?
Yeah. Most people would not believe how much it actually rained, about 24 inches a year. But they also had a yearly monsoon, just like they have in India now. That used to be in Egypt. So people don't know that the pyramids were all surrounded by stone walls, so it would catch the water.
Oh, wow. What age group are we talking about? The 3000 BC, or are we talking much, much earlier, maybe even 10,000 BC?
Most people believe the pyramids were built about 5,000 years ago in Egypt. I like to say most people believe that because there's a lot of different ideas about when they were built.
Now, does your personal research go along with that time period, or have
my
you come across something else?
The association of each Egypt pharaoh with each pyramid does seem to make sense.
Okay.
It does seem to be the correct answer. But studies of the carbon dating have proven that the pyramids are 400 years older than any date they've come up with so far. So we're looking at a 400-year discrepancy, but that's not much compared to someone like the Edgar Cayce Foundation that thinks they could be up to 100,000 years old.
Yes.
Which is insane difference.
Yes.
I've seen that difference. My own research and feelings are it definitely the 12,000 year plus possibility for certain, but
I agree.
There's a lot of space in there.
The Great Pyramid seems to be different than all the others. It could be older, and the pyramid next to it, Khafre's, could be 10,000 years old. But they do seem to follow a line of evolution with the pyramids. So I'm still saying the Egyptologists are probably right about their dates.
Okay. Patrick, how did you come up with this idea about the rainwater being harvested?
I had been wondering what they were for years. And then I met this guy, this genius, crazy engineer. I mean, he really was crazy. I had to bring him things every single day or he wouldn't even help me.
Like what kind of things?
Beer or cigarettes.
Oh, okay.
Or something.
Sounds like he's like a rock star of some sort.
He just doesn't want anything to do with anybody.
Ah.
Now, was he Egyptian or from another culture?
He's from New Jersey, I think.
Oh,
Okay.
And so I threw these ideas at him, every idea I had, and he said, I don't like any of them. And he said, what happens when it rains on a pyramid? And I knew exactly what would happen. It would go on the pyramid, be collected, go down an aqueduct, and suddenly we had the answer.
That's something from reading your book. Most all the pyramids you looked at actually had aqueducts and cisterns around them, correct?
Almost every single one from the Old Kingdom, all 28 of them.
Wow. And I guess I'll go off on a tangent. I remember the most important part in your book was when the limestone casing was there during the rain, a single inch would equate to a very large volume of water.
Huge, millions of volumes sometimes. 1 inch of rainwater. I don't have the figures with me. I should have brought them with me, but on the Great Pyramid, 1 inch of rainwater is something like 250,000 gallons of water.
Wow.
Yeah, that was something that really stuck out with me, and you did the research on the actual...
On every pyramid.
Yeah, on the equation.
What did you come up with your research? How is that possible?
It's just surface area.
Oh, okay.
It's a simple equation. There is a standard equation that you can use for the surface area. If 1 inch of rain falls on this surface, you know exactly how many gallons.
Okay.
So you just take the surface area of any one, plug it into the formula, and it comes out. It's actually... The Egyptologists don't doubt me that would be the amount that the water would be captured. They just don't believe I'm correct because it's not their idea.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of that out there.
It probably didn't even cross their mind because I haven't heard much about the theory of harvesting rainwater until now, pretty much. So
Exactly.
It's not a common theory.
No, I'm the only one who's ever come up with it and the only one who's written about it. I'm the only one on the internet. But they're actually building pyramids now in India for the exact same purpose.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, India, and I'm sure Valerie
Oh,
was
yeah.
somewhat with that in Russia also.
Combination of capturing dew and rainwater when it's not raining. They catch dew.
Now, why do you think they would harvest rainwater in Egypt? Couldn't they drink the water out of the Nile River?
Yeah, you would think so. But I made a dare to anyone to drink a gallon of Nile River water, and I will give you $100. I've made that to anyone, every Egyptologist I talk to. And
Might as well be drinking Fort Wayne River water.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's similar. But you wouldn't drink that. They don't drink the water there. I was there for 2 days. 2 weeks. And they never drank the water from the Nile River. And the only time they drank water was from the tap. I never saw anybody going down to the river and saying, oh, that's a good idea.
Yet they drink, what is the famous sacred river in India where they all go?
Oh, right, the Ganges.
Yeah, where they all drink it and get sick. And I saw a documentary one time of a British journalist doing that. And he was sick for weeks. It was pretty frightening.
Yeah, you wouldn't do it. In fact, they had a river running through Rome, the Tiber River running through Rome.
Okay.
Then why did they build 12 aqueducts to bring water into the city?
Want it a little bit cleaner, maybe?
Yeah, they didn't have any purification system like we have nowadays.
Not really. Not as we think about it.
So it's like almost the pyramids were almost the original purification system.
They would not... Somebody once was asking me if the limestone could purify the water, and I said, why would you want to purify rainwater?
That's true.
It's perfect, exactly like it is.
Now, like nowadays, if that happened, would the pollution in the air, would that be collected with the water?
You
as
do
well?
want to filter it.
But yeah, they didn't have the kind of pollution back then that we have nowadays.
Exactly. Yeah, it wasn't a problem. And
Right.
plus, they were all built in cemeteries, so the Egyptologist said to me, doesn't that tell you something? It was built in a cemetery. And I said, all that tells me is you're not going to have any industry surrounding there.
Yeah, that's
No
true.
fires, no pollution, nothing. It's
Yeah,
perfect.
That would be good. And I'm sure they didn't have 8 billion people back in those days.
No,
Also,
there was
my thought process.
At the most, 1 million in
Yes.
all of Egypt.
Yeah, it seemed like altogether the society was a much more clean society.
They were the
than-
cleanest ancient society in the world at the time. They took baths when no one else took baths. They had plumbing, not like we think of plumbing, but they definitely had bathing facilities. In fact, I think that Sphinx and the temple in front of the Sphinx was a bathhouse.
I've not heard that, but
It's in my book.
yeah, that's pretty cool. And Egypt, as in the Indus Valley civilization, yeah, they had bathrooms in their homes and plumbing, and
Yeah.
we're talking thousands of years ago, and in many ways they are more advanced than many of those societies that live there right this minute.
You're probably right.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You're probably right.
Well, look at like the tunnels and the chambers within the pyramid itself. It's not far-fetched to think they had some kind of plumbing system.
They could do anything in stone that they wanted to, but we don't have any evidence of true plumbing systems, but their aqueducts were incredible.
Now, what do other Egyptologists think about your theory?
I have not met one that didn't want to bite my head off because they can't find a reason why it doesn't work. So that makes them matter. Every time they say, I'd had forums with them twice,
Oh, okay.
with real Egyptologists, and both times they would say, see how dumb you are? And then I'd say, oh, but this. And they'd say, oh, well, now you're an idiot, even though you're right.
Right.
Because that can't be right, period. Everything you're saying has to be wrong. And my question was, well, what about this? This is obvious, and it rained. It's in your research that it rained. And one even went as far as to say, we may have to reassess that research.
Wow. Just because you have this theory.
Yeah,
Now
That's
that
nice.
proves them wrong and they got to redo theirs.
might have to redo the research.
Now, do a lot of Egyptologists still hold on to the almost silly tomb theory?
Every one of them believes that that's true.
Yet they've never found a mummy in any major pyramid, and
Well,
it's kind of silly.
That's kind of a misconception. There were no mummies made during the Old Kingdom. They were only made in the later Middle Kingdom and then in the New Kingdom, but there were no mummies. But they have found 2 sarcophagus
That
sarcophagi
look like a sarcophagus
with nothing in them at all.
Yeah,
They
look
were
like a
they were
sarcophagus.
sealed completely with nothing in them. If anything, they were cenotaphs,
Okay.
which are spiritual burials.
Okay, that makes sense. Because that goes also along with their jars that they had. Seemed like they were kind of like capturing spirits or something in these jars.
I don't know. I don't know.
Trapping the Ka or the Ba.
Well,
Okay.
I don't think you could trap those two spiritual
Now,
forms.
do you know if there were any like other cemeteries or something like cemeteries that were outside the pyramid system?
What do you mean outside
Like
of it?
to show that the pyramids weren't for burials. Like were there other burial
And they
systems
weren't.
outside the pyramids?
Well, nobody has been able to prove one way or the other
Okay.
because they just haven't found any burial equipment inside a pyramid. They just haven't found any. All they found is broken up stuff, and when they put them back together, they don't equal a tomb.
Oh, okay.
So just no serious evidence of any kind.
They say it's a tomb because what else could it possibly be?
Right.
We see that on structures around the world. As soon as they find something, oh, they must have used that for worship or worship that. Yeah, that seems to be an ongoing answer to every problem that cannot be solved.
It's true. If you don't know what it
And they're
is,
all
it's a
just
temple.
assumptions, and people put stuff like this in history books as it's a fact of some sort.
Right.
They're just assumptions.
Yeah. Oh, they absolutely say it's a fact.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
And at that point, that stops a lot of possible research going on.
They don't want anyone else to really be in their field if you're not one of us, then you're never, ever going to be published.
Yeah.
Ever. In fact, I can't be published because I don't have a doctorate in Egyptology.
Oh, really?
I have to publish my
Wow.
own books.
Well, I mean, with here at Ancient Mysteries Revisited and the people we work with around the world, the majority are independent researchers. And how are we going to get to the facts without having an open mind and looking at other theories and evidence and research?
So true.
Yeah. Do you think this society now will be destroyed before the reality of our ancients comes about?
You mean, will we self-implode
Right. Exactly.
like the Roman
We're
did?
on that path. We've been.
I
that
think
path
we're
for
on
a
the
while.
path of the Romans,
Yeah.
but I would give it 200 or 300 years before we implode.
Isn't that far off in the grand scheme of things?
Probably
Now when we're-
India's still there. Italy's still there. We could survive forever. Who knows?
Yeah,
That's true.
when you look at ancient Greece and even more ancient Egypt, Sumer,
Yeah.
all those ancient, they lasted a very, very long time.
The Egyptian culture lasted uninterrupted until the Greeks got there for 4,000 years. No one
Wow,
conquered
yeah.
them, nothing.
And look at what we're seeing in only about 250 years in our American culture. We're trying to keep it going.
Now, if you don't mind, would you describe how how a pyramid harvested the rainwater?
It's actually extremely manual. There's no mysticism.
Okay.
Every pyramid is surrounded by a wall, and if it rains on a pyramid surrounded by a wall, it's going to capture water. And then every pyramid is attached to a long stone aqueduct, so it catches the water, runs down the aqueduct, and then it goes to something called a valley temple. That's what the Egyptologists, I call them cisterns, because there's no windows. They're almost airtight. I mean, they're perfectly designed to contain water. Giant, thick walls that would never succumb to the pressure of millions of gallons of water. And that's it. It just fell on the pyramid, ran down the aqueduct, got stored in the cistern. It's all there. It's everything there is still exactly like I said.
Wow.
Could have used that not only for, catching the water. Could they have used that kind of power of the rain for energy systems also?
There's no evidence, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did it somewhere else. They had the Nile River for water power.
Yeah, that's true. But there's theories out there that make it possible that the pyramid was used as a power plant almost.
Yeah, Christopher Dunn.
Do you think the water itself was combined with the other mechanisms?
There
in
are
the
people
pyramid?
who do believe that the water. There's a starts with a C. I forget his name, but he's shown that the water could run down the internal ramps, the internal tunnel, and cause some kind of pressure system to develop, and then the pressure would be used for vibration. It's very complex, almost incredibly unlikely.
Yeah, I've seen
Right,
I think
yeah.
it's Stephen Meyer that does the water pyramid water pump, and I mean it appears even that the research.
Cadman.
Yeah,
He's the other one doing that.
even the research I've done and people I've talked to, it surely appears the pyramids had many uses. I mean, it
Probably.
seems like because they're all over the planet. I mean, everywhere under the
You're right.
ocean, and it seems for cultures to have built them all over the world, it seems they could have had many uses.
Well, my research has only proven that the Egyptian pyramids were used to catch rainwater.
Oh,
So the other pyramids worldwide could be used for anything. I don't know. I've never researched them.
Okay.
Although I did research the Mesoamerican pyramids to see if they had any walls. They never had walls surrounding them.
Oh, no casing walls.
Well, they were never in courtyards surrounded by high walls like the Egyptian pyramids. All of them were.
Okay. Now, Bruce, you said there was a pyramid up in Chicago that was a modern built
Yeah,
pyramid.
the Golden Pyramid House.
Yeah.
Yeah, a guy in Chicago had built that back in the, I think, 60s, early 70s. And he built it exact specifications as the Great Pyramid as far as the angles and such. And it's quite impressive. It's just above Gurney on 94, if anybody ever wants to check it out. It had a terrible fire a year or two ago, but I believe it's been
Really?
reconstructed since. It also has an absolute identical mock-up of King Tut's tomb there.
It does?
Yes, very, very cool.
Oh, I'd like to see
But
that.
the most amazing thing when we talk about the energy of a pyramid is when he built this, there was no water there, and it brought the groundwater from all the adjacent acres and made its own moat by itself around the pyramid. So
Did it have a wall or anything around that as well? Or anything?
No.
Okay.
That's funny you say that, because in my research, the only thing I found when I was trying to see if they could be used for energy or whatever is that when I built little pyramids and just got tired of using them for my models and videos, put them in the yard, and everything around them would begin to dry up. So it was almost like they were sucking up water and putting it up in the
Wow,
Oh, it's
atmosphere.
like evaporating
Yeah,
up and back. in the
everything
atmosphere.
around them
Wow.
would begin to die.
that's cool because me and Rodney have talked about the library where we have our studio. They have many 3D printers. We've thought about getting doing some pyramids and doing experiments such as Patrick has just talked about. That's a really cool idea.
I've got some AutoCAD that might be able to plug into one of those things.
Ooh, nice.
We should collaborate on this idea. 'Cause I got a vacant lot in my backyard.
Oh,
All
nice.
I do is mow it. I don't do anything else with it.
That's-
And I was discussing with Bruce before the show that it'd be cool to develop some kind of pyramid
Let's build
research back there.
let's build a
Yes.
let's build a mock-up of Khafra's pyramid or Khufu and just see how it collects rainwater.
Yes,
That would be great,
Yes, because
seriously.
between Patrick and our friend Valery Uvarov in Russia, who builds pyramid complexes and stuff, we could get all the right specifications and materials. And
Do you have any remnants, Patrick, of your pyramids that you had previously on your property?
I still have it, but it's in Gainesville.
Oh, okay.
Yep, I have like lots of them. One of them is 4 feet tall. It's in my videos.
I'll have to check that out. Speaking of videos, where could our listeners check your stuff out at online?
They're all on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So just type in your name then?
If you type in pyramids and rainwater,
Okay.
because I'm the only one who's come up with anything associating those two words, then you will come up with all of my material that's on the web. There's 3 or 4 pages of material.
Now that's a crucial topic that was found, was the harvesting of the rainwater. I'm surprised it took this long for somebody to come across this.
No one knew it rained in Egypt.
Yeah, that's kind of mind blowing.
This is very recent climate research.
Okay.
Because when I first came up with the idea, or when me and my engineer friend Dan did, he said, I can't believe this until I see climate study. So I went to the university, which was 4 blocks away.
Mhm.
It took me 2 hours to come up with more climate research than we could possibly need for a book.
Oh wow.
And it absolutely proved that it rained during the Old Kingdom. So this is very recent research. Most Egyptologists don't even know.
Has there been climate change recently or in modern times, or does it still rain like it did back in the ancient times?
When I was in Egypt, it rained 3 times out of 10 days. But I was there in the winter,
Yeah.
when they said it rains more in the winter time. But before I went there, someone told me it only rains like millimeters a year, and we got like 5 millimeters while I was there.
Yeah, that's
So
quite a bit.
I think the climate is changing. I think it's getting wetter. There's some areas now that are so wet, not in Australia, but some other place I just heard about. They're getting so much water they don't know what to do.
Oh wow.
Like even in our American deserts, they're
Yeah, they
getting
weren't
more
prepared
water.
for that.
Uh-uh.
yeah, there was a guy talking. I'm not sure either. I think it was the Thailand area, and they were saying that they get all these rivers, but at the same time the groundwaters are getting so saturated. It's in agriculture, it's creating a real problem.
Really?
And you would think it'd be the opposite, but
Yeah, if they're not prepared for that amount of rainwater, that could destroy their whole culture at that time.
well, we're seeing change. The 3 of us haven't been around that long, and
There's some
me being
drastic
here the
change.
longest,
Yeah.
we're seeing how many changes in just the short time we've been around.
Yeah. Same thing happened in Egypt. It was called the wet Holocene period,
Okay.
during the time when I found out it rained. And it really didn't rain much more than those years that the pyramids were built. About 200 years, the wet Holocene period. That's the only time they really got a whole bunch of rainwater. But they've always gotten monsoons up until 2200 BC, when everything changed again.
Now, if it rained too much, going along with your personal research with pyramids, could you put a pyramid in that area and have it collect the water and evaporate and clear it up a little bit?
I don't think so. I think the better choice would be to build some canals and
Yeah.
some cisterns and plant some more gardens.
Right.
Well, that seems to be, ideal a lot with the Angkor culture in Cambodia, and that seems to be, and you hear the same with the Mayans and others, that they believe all these cultures disappeared because they ran out of water and famines.
Exactly.
Yet there's evidence, but no absolute proof of this, because, where are the skeletons? Where did these people go? Where it looks sometimes like they just absolutely disappeared.
It's possible.
The Egyptian. Do you believe that the Egyptian people that are there today are even related to those ancient people of 5,000 years ago?
I actually have read many studies on that subject because I wanted to know where they came from.
Mhm.
And what they seem to find is there were some Libyans there who are probably what the original Egyptians looked like. And then there was an invasion, probably from India. And those are the original Egyptians that we see that created the pyramids, were probably from India, which has an older culture than Egypt even.
Okay.
Wow,
But the people there now are Arabs, which is not Egyptian. That's Arab. It's totally different.
okay. Well, that's cool. You talk about India because dealing with, the Angkor culture in Southeast Asia, that's always been my thought is, did the people come from India to Southeast Asia? Did they originate in Southeast Asia, go to India? It's a mystery.
The migrations seem to come from Babylon and Assyria, and then they kind of go into India. Then they came into Egypt.
Okay, so you are in agreement that Sumer may be the absolute oldest known culture.
I think it is.
Okay, we have more than enough evidence because it's the only culture that left us stories on those cuneiform tablets.
The only one who could possibly be older is India, and we're talking about cities that are underwater now, off their coast.
Okay.
And
Dwarka.
yeah, and that's even probably older than Assyria. Well, not all of them, but I think India is probably older than anything. I think they're the oldest
Which
culture.
still ties to that Indus Valley civilization, which I'm so infatuated with. It's just sad that most of it is in Pakistan. That's right currently not a safe place to go exploring and
Same with Egypt.
yeah, well, not quite the same as Pakistan, but yeah, you could be
point.
correct. We still have many friends though.
They just had another bombing on the Giza Plateau.
Oh my goodness.
no.
'Cause, yeah, we still.
Luckily,
have
they
lots of
can't hurt the
friends.
pyramids.
Right.
I don't know what was the Egyptologist that blew up the pyramid much.
It was before Petrie. It was
Yeah.
I forget his name, but the same person who excavated the Valley Temple of Khafra on the Giza
'cause
Plateau.
He did his number trying.
Marriott.
Yeah, he wanted in there.
He got in.
Did you ever feel like you were in danger over there when you did your research in Egypt?
If I was walking from my hotel to a restaurant at night, that was the most danger I felt in Cairo.
Oh, okay.
And 2 or 3 times people wanted to show me a shortcut to the restaurant I was going to, down the alley. That happened 2 or 3 times. But every single time you go anywhere, you're harassed by people trying to sell you something. And everywhere you go, every minute of the day.
Oh, okay.
Egypt is not a fun place. You should take a tour. I've told everybody I know, if you're going to Egypt, take a tour.
That sounds correct. That's one of my big pluses, I guess, when I do tours, like whether I don't care if it's Arizona, Cambodia. I like going places where you can have a lot of fun. You can go out to the restaurant bars and, the people interact. And that is the environment I personally like versus just going to the ancient site.
Yeah, I like it all. That's why I like Greece.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get a cultural reference of where you're at is mingle with the population
Mm-hmm.
there.
That's right. My tours in Cambodia, you ride tuk-tuks, not buses.
Oh, I was lucky in Egypt. Just when I was giving up after, I guess I'd been there for 4 days and I was starving to death because you can't read the menus. It's impossible. Everything's in Arabic. Everything.
So you have to just point at something.
Yeah.
And hope that
Yeah.
you like
Well,
it.
I'd have to go to the flea markets and point at bread
okay.
and stuff. But if you go to a restaurant, if they don't have pictures, and if they do have pictures, you probably don't want to eat there.
Okay.
So I was starving. And then I met this guy who let me stay at his family's house for $30. And that came with
nice.
my own bedroom and 3 meals a day and taking me to any pyramid site.
Nice.
And that's some home cooking.
No,
so
it was the best
yeah.
food I've ever had.
Our friend and
That sounds
former
great.
co-host, Katrina Hutchins, she stayed with the Awian family when she was there, and it was the same concept. Stayed right with the family. They took her around and showed her the sights.
That's the way. That's the way.
Okay. Very
Is it
cool.
rare to find a family that'll let you in like that, or is that common over there?
I don't know. Most of the people over there asked me if I wanted to buy hashish and come to their house. And of course you say no because it's probably a cop or even worse than a cop,
Yeah.
a criminal.
You had just mentioned Greece. I believe we just talked recently that you had just made a trip to Greece in the last year or so.
Yep, I went there in June.
Okay, well, tell us some of the sites you saw and why you were there.
I went there to see Mycenae. That's because the last time I was there, I didn't get to see Mycenae or Epidaurus, the biggest, most beautiful theater in Greece. But Mycenae is made with massive, gigantic blocks like the pyramids and Stonehenge. I mean, incredible. Some of the blocks are bigger than anything ever quarried outside of Lebanon, Baalbek.
Wow.
So I wanted to see that. It was beautiful.
Yeah, tell us more. 'cause
Yeah.
I've never really heard
What's
of
the
that
date
site.
on those? How far back do those date?
Wait, Mycenae?
Yeah.
3,000 years.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Pretty sure.
by
Something like that.
mainstream archaeologists.
It's the Mycenaean era, which came after the Cretan era, the Kenosis. So just before the classic era of Greece.
Okay, yeah, I'm not really familiar with that site. And
Mycenae is
yeah,
amazing.
That's cool.
Glad I got to see it.
Have to look that up.
They have a giant cistern there too,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
you have to go down a long set of stairs before you get to it. It's really amazing.
Now, is that cistern being used currently, or?
It's still catching water.
Oh, okay.
It's still collecting water. Yeah, it's actually not a cistern. It's just the ground table, the
Oh,
groundwater.
okay.
But it's so deep it goes to the groundwater.
Well, you had mentioned the possible Indian connection in Egypt. I mean, India and as well as Cambodia and those areas all have those water closets, that the big into the ground like pools with steps.
Yeah,
all over.
actually, a lot of those have been proven to catch rainwater.
Yeah,
That's why they built them.
Yeah, for sure.
They're pyramids that are inverted,
Yeah, exactly.
but they do the same thing.
Like a step pyramid inverted. Yeah, up
Which
and
is
down.
interesting, because isn't there like some research that proves that there is a inverted pyramid in Egypt that's underneath the actual pyramid?
Some people think that. I haven't seen anybody prove it.
Oh, okay.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to dig more into that.
I think so.
Yeah.
Very curious what's under there.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many tunnels.
Yeah.
Dr. Sam Osmanovich, his research shows that there's tunnels under almost every pyramid that has been discovered.
Yeah, didn't Brian Forrester go under the Giza pyramid? Wasn't he one of the people who was able to find tunnels?
I think he might have been the one that mentioned there being an inverted pyramid.
Yeah, he was just on our show, and he's doing another Egypt tour next year sometime. I'm not sure the exact date.
I wish I could go. I recommend anybody go if you can go see his stuff.
Yeah, that'd be an amazing.
He
tour
really
for
believes
sure.
in his research.
Yeah, it was a fascinating show. We truly enjoyed it for sure.
Now, is there any evidence in the ancient writings, like maybe a papyrus of some sort, that supports your theory of the collecting of the rainwater?
Yeah, well, most of the writing done during the Old Kingdom was religious, and most of it was written in stone. They still did a whole lot of regular writing. Like, have you heard about that diary they found of Merer? They found the same guy who was helping to build the Great Pyramid. That's another reason I think it was.
They found his diary?
Yeah, they found his diary.
What kind of information did they find within?
Where he picked up the stone and how he took it and where he drops it off. Very, very close to the pyramid. So they actually did some more research and found out that he was right. There's a big basin closer to the pyramids. But there is a lot. The names of the pyramids, especially the Great Pyramid, is actually called Akhet, which translates to floodwater. It's the same thing.
Really?
Same thing they call the inundation is the Akhet.
Okay.
Wow.
So I think it was called the Great Flood Water
So
Collector or whatever.
That gives you a little bit of
Wusurkov's
little evidence
pyramid,
back up.
the pure water facility. That's exactly how it translates, but they translate it as the purified pyramid.
Okay.
And it doesn't say purified, it says the pure water pyramid.
Does it mention what pyramid was that pure water purifier?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Usurkov.
Oh, okay.
Usurkov, he was a 5th dynasty pharaoh.
Okay.
And Shepsakov came right after Khufu, and he called his cool waters. It's called Keba'u. That translates identically to cool waters or rainwater.
That's
Very
a lot of
interesting.
evidence.
Yeah,
And that's just the beginning. I think that the pyramid translates to a structure within a basin. It's all there. Per means structure, M means within, and id is a translation. It used to be is, which used to be sha, which means basin. So it's all there. When I told this to Egyptologists, they said, we've essentially already figured out what those names are, and you're wrong. And I said, why? And they said, because we've already done the research.
That sounds like
You don't need to be doing it.
Yeah.
This could all be a cover-up, too. Who knows?
Yeah. Hey, you never know.
Yeah.
I hope there's a lot more to it than
I
just
mean,
catching rainwater.
You look at it, it's like, this is the way it is. We've already told you, and we're not discussing it.
It's
any
in the
further.
books. Some of them went so far as to say, maybe you should do some research. And I'm like, I've done 10 years of research for this one book.
Yeah, look at all the information you're putting forth. That's
Yeah.
Kind of offensive that they're saying
Oh, they
that.
love offensive.
Yeah.
They love offending.
We've discussed with almost all of our guests that there's, I won't even say appears, but I'll use the word anyway, that there's a given paradigm that they want accepted, and to veer from that paradigm at all is a battle we're all facing.
It's blasphemy. If you begin talking differently, you will be ostracized.
Yet their facts are not proven.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, their answer to that is, well, we're working on it. And this
they're
is
the
the
only
best
people
answer.
that have the capability.
They're the
of
only
doing
people
so.
who are allowed to.
Yeah, that's what.
They're the only
truth
people
of
who
it
are
is.
allowed to write in scientific journals. So, of course, nobody else is going to get a word.
Right.
And then before, they even had a single archaeologist that had an absolute monopoly on it for how many years? Mr. Zawas, I think his name
Zahi
is.
Hawass.
Zahi Hawass, yes. So,
Yeah, he was a hard case.
yeah, and like so many, he did a lot of good work, it appears, in his early days, and just things change. I've seen that with many of the researchers that we all read their books and stuff, where they do great work and then appear to get big heads.
Zahi Hawass was, to me, I think he was only a front man. He was like the president of the United States. His main job is to look good, tell a good story, and tell other people what he wants to happen. But other than that, he called himself an Egyptologist because he finally went to school for 2 years.
Oh.
And now he calls himself an Egyptologist because he went to school for 2 years.
Actually, he calls himself the most famous Egyptologist in the world.
Yeah.
I've seen it in the magazines.
But I don't think he's ever carved. I don't think he's ever dug in the ground, ever.
I've seen some old...
So he's just regurgitating things he sees online.
I've
or
never seen him with a
books.
shovel.
Wow.
And I've seen millions of things about him because he loves being published.
Yeah, well, luckily, that's a good thing that it's a little more open now, but I'm sure there's still politics, as there is in virtually anything that people do.
He brought a lot of people to Egypt, though. He was good for tourism. I don't know how good he was for Egyptology.
Now, do these so-called Egyptologists, like you mentioned, since you say they're good for tourism, do any of these researchers, do they work side by side with the Egypt government at all or anything like that?
Who?
Like these so-called Egyptologists who bring in a lot of people?
Oh, there's no difference. If you're in Egypt, you're working with the government.
Oh, okay.
If you're putting a hole in the ground, you're working with the government.
So the government there has probably confronted you about what you've done there or anything?
No, but I am so grateful that I got out of Egypt. Once I pulled out a measuring stick, or yardstick, and before I could get it unrolled to measure something, I had a cop on me saying no. But you don't dig in Egypt. But I'm so lucky I got through the airport, because I only found out when I got back that I could have been in a whole lot of trouble for the little stone fragments I picked up as mementos. If any of those had turned out to be artifacts, not only was I stealing artifacts, I was smuggling artifacts. So
that'd have been a huge deal.
So I never asked any Egyptologists if they were real. I decided let's drop that.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I have some other friends that bring artifacts from different sites, and if you get caught, you bought them at the market. They were just knockoffs.
Oh, I like that, except I'd labeled each one of mine.
Be like, they were labeled when you purchased it.
Yeah, with the same pin I have in my backpack.
You bought that there too.
So lucky I got out of Egypt.
When was the last time you went to Egypt?
Right before the revolution.
Oh,
I left 3 days before Tahrir Square erupted in violence.
Oh, no.
3 days. And I left 2 days before all planes were grounded.
Oh, you got extremely lucky.
Yep. I met somebody who had just arrived in Egypt when I was leaving, and I know he had to experience that.
Well, that's similar to Katrina's story. Her and her daughter ran into the same thing, and they were told they were safe, but they were also told by friends it would be better to get on the plane because they shut down the airports many times.
Right. Oh, yeah. The only ones flying were Germany
Yeah, so that's
for 2 weeks.
well, when you're an explorer, it's granted we do
Yeah.
exploring on a more modern basis than the The explorers that I love reading their books are the ones from the 1800s, early 1900s.
On horseback.
Yeah, I mean, no cell phones, no recourse. You were truly on your own.
I like that too.
Yeah, those are fun books.
That's danger in and of itself. But
Oh, my
now
gosh.
with the conflict going on worldwide, there's major danger going on now.
In different places.
Americans are not. This is not a good time to travel if you're an American.
It depends.
It's
Right,
I mean,
that's
Europe,
like for sure.
you'll be okay in Europe, but even in Greece, they were not
Well,
very
even some
nice
places
to me.
in Europe nowadays.
Probably, I don't know.
Well, Greece would be Europe. so
I'm
yeah.
thinking more about the places, the archaeological sites we might want to see.
Oh yeah,
If
definitely.
if you want to go see those places, you probably just want to say you're from Canada.
I've done that many of my travels over the years, even before I started getting into the advanced archaeology arena. But Southeast Asia, I go there often. I believe, especially Cambodia, one of the safest places on the planet. Siem Reap for sure is. The workers there and people that live there have been told if they even argue with a tourist, they're going to jail. So I believe many places to be very safe.
Oh,
they
and,
want
and
that tourist money coming
Yeah.
in.
oh, it's the same in
Sure.
Egypt.
Yeah.
But there's they're supposed to be super nice to you, but as soon as anybody's back is turned,
they'll
that
just-
changes
yeah.
fast. They were only nice to me when I was giving them money, and that's a little expression I came up with because I kept seeing it over and over. I was like, "Wow, this guy's really nice." Oh yeah, I was just buying something.
Yeah, that is the only reason I want to there.
Yes. I mean, we probably could have that here. Me and my wife Dixie have been very
Definitely.
fortunate in many of our travels. We befriended locals, been to their homes, and we've been very fortunate in our travels for sure. Well, I guess we'll say, what's up next on your list? You had mentioned your ancient Egyptian dictionary and some of the stuff you're working on now.
When I'm finished with the dictionary and I get it back up online for sale, because it was online, but I looked at it again and I decided it needed to be redone.
Oh, okay.
So when I'm finished with that, that's a 7-year project. I want to get interested in this geopolymy theory that Joseph David Ovitz has, that the pyramids were built piece by piece, like by cement,
Molded, yes.
block by block.
The metallurgist on our team, Jeffrey Boyd Jr., who we discussed before we got on the air, he uses the same theory as Joseph does there because his research, being a background of chemical metallurgy, it appears, and even Dr. Sam and many over the years look at these sites and say, wow, that stone looks like it was molded. And now maybe maybe it was.
Yeah.
Perfection of the stone, it has to be that way, you would think.
Well, some of those stones are like unbelievable weights, and they're clinging to the edge of a pyramid 350 feet in the air, and they're able to put a 4,000 pound block, one after another, dragging them up and get it done in 20 years. It's just not possible.
Do you think they molded them like right next to the pyramid?
They molded them either on the pyramid itself,
Okay.
which is most likely. The only ones they would have made elsewhere would have been the lower ones that they could easily move.
Right.
Yeah, you look at, we have all kinds of theories how they move these 100+ ton blocks with sound seems to be the best theory, magnetism, but it seems like it'd be much easier with people with packs on their back with small stones to go in cauldrons. That's one of the reasons I want to return to the plain of jars in Laos with geologist Alexander Koltipin, because I would like to see if sites like those were, metallurgy places, that was what they were doing. And the evidence is there in other sites of ancient metallurgy all over the world. So it's definitely a viable theory.
It's a great theory. I don't deny that they probably built gigantic things out of sandstone, but I don't think they ever had to move those things. Like they would build them, they would carve them in place. But as far as moving incredibly heavy stones, it's probably possible, but not up 400 feet.
Yeah.
They're talking about only on level ground. Do you ever see depictions of them moving heavy stones? You don't see how they got them 400 feet in the air.
Yeah, and I don't think they would devise some kind of pulley system.
Well,
that
it's
heavy.
impossible.
Or these crazy
Right.
ramp systems that we see pictures of
They said
over the
if
years.
they've decided now, the Egyptologists have finally agreed there couldn't have been a ramp because it would have taken more effort to build the ramp than the pyramid.
Yeah, that's true.
It would have to have been 5 miles long, and that's just not going to
Plus,
happen.
you would think something that large too. The ramp would have to be huge itself.
Exactly.
There'd be some kind of artifact of the ramp too.
Oh, there'd have to be something,
Yeah.
and there's nothing. I've been there. There's no evidence of a ramp anywhere.
Right.
There's just solid rock.
And you had brought up the carvings. I've been to Angkor Wat many times, and many of the temples, but we'll just take that one single temple. There are just miles and miles of carvings on literally every inch of that temple.
Right.
And to do that with a chisel and hammer and make no mistakes, it seems if that stone would have been soft, it would have been much easier to get those carvings.
I wonder if they could have been cast. I haven't even thought about it.
That's a valid point. I mean, especially some of those statues in Egypt.
Yeah.
And the
there's
obelisks.
some that are just perfect and identical one after the other.
Yeah, like
Oh,
each
the
side-
obelisks
each
have
side
gotta
of the
be built
statue is like
by
spot on
cement.
perfection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
perfection itself. Christopher Dunn has proven that some of the statues are exactly symmetrical.
Yeah.
It had to be machined. There's no way a human can do it. I carved marble personally, and I can tell you, you can't carve something exactly symmetrical. A
Yeah.
face,
There's
especially,
no
is what he's
evidence of
talking
any
about.
carvings that were done like that right now, showing that it was done symmetrically.
Right.
Perfect.
I can't
Well-
think of another sculpture in the world that's
Right.
as perfect as those.
And we're told that it was copper chisels and slaves. that
Yeah,
did it.
carving granite. Yeah.
Well, for those to be molded too, how'd they make the mold perfect?
Well, I mean, we look at
Well, the mold can be done over and over.
Yeah.
If you can measure things super well, you can make an easy mold. But
Okay.
even if you can measure things perfectly well, that doesn't mean you can carve
That's
a
true.
statue perfectly, unless you're using, like Christopher Dunn says, real high-tech tools.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the major issue that I guess all of us have is back in these ancient times they had superior technology, and it's apparently all been lost or forgotten. I mean, that really is where the ancient alien theory comes in. I'm not sure it has anything to do with that, but that is the major component that,
Yeah.
where is this technology?
Yeah, it seems like they had some technologies that would have to be similar to like a CNC machine of today, or something of some sort.
You mean a precision carving tool?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what Christopher Dunn thinks.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolute. If this stuff not only is it hundreds of tons, it would be all we could do to move it, and we could not move the blocks at Baalbek in Lebanon.
I'd
even
like
with
to
all
know.
our technology.
I'd like to know how they got these 70-ton granite rocks 400 miles or 800 miles upriver. I mean, how did they get them on a boat?
Well,
Oh, that's true.
What kind of boat was it that did this? And how did it not scratch the bottom the whole time they were doing it?
The
The
Japanese,
Nile River's not that deep, although
Ja-
back then it was 20 feet
the
deeper.
Japanese researchers have done that exact theory in Angkor, in the rivers there.
Okay.
They go to the quarries, which are about 40 miles
Oh,
away,
all right.
and they could not
Oh.
get down the river more than a 1-ton block.
Well, with how much
That's
stone
with our
was,
technology.
I don't
with
doubt
how
it.
much stone was used too, there should be stone that was dropped off, falling off the boat,
Fragments.
and landing in the riverbed.
Fragments.
And
Right, right.
I don't think there's any evidence in the riverbed of any of these big stones.
I haven't heard of anything being found like that.
Yeah.
But you know what? At the quarries, they don't find carved out blocks when they go to the quarries. They find smashed up stuff.
Okay.
And Joseph Daviditis' theory is that they would even smash up granite and turn that into those 70-ton stones that you see in the King's Chamber.
Wow.
Yeah, you look at the King's Chamber again. You would have much more knowledge, but here's this, 100-ton sarcophagus type box
Right.
in an area that could not been brought in there. It
Right.
had to be in there.
It was built
before
there.
it was built, or it built there.
It was probably built right there. And there's cores that were taken out, cores that are almost 3 inches wide. Somebody cored into that block, the sarcophagus you're talking about in the King's Chamber.
Mhm.
Oh, additionally, there's never been another stone found like that anywhere in the world, that kind of stone.
Wow.
It had to have been created. So
Yeah.
anyway, these cores were sent in to pull out stone when it was still soft. That's the only way it could have been done.
It surely makes sense. It's neat talking to you about this because, I mean, that's what myself and, Jeffrey and Dr. Sam and many of us have been looking at for some time now. And, I really want to get the geologist Alexander Koltipin because he's a more open-minded geologist. He's at the University of Moscow.
Cool.
And I'd love to get him to some of the places we're talking about going and get the facts. We're talking evidence and theories. We need facts.
Oh, their geologists have already proven the theory about the geopolymers, but the Egyptologists are saying we like our theory better.
As usual.
Oh my goodness, we've got a paradigm. Sorry, you're not in.
Yeah,
you're on the outside of the window looking in.
They like a little mystery.
Right. Well, so what is your current research involved with? Like you said, you're developing your dictionary.
The dictionary's almost done.
Okay.
I'm always doing research on hieroglyphics. That never stops because I just love it. I love hieroglyphics. But I am getting a little. This subject of the geopolymers is really taking over my thoughts right now. Ever since I read the book about 2 months ago, I want to write a book on this subject now, but I don't think I will. But it's just incredible.
Yeah, I'll have to put you in touch with Jeffrey Boyd because
yeah.
I think you would really enjoy that. You're talking about the hieroglyphics, and you've done so much work, and with this ancient dictionary you're transcribing. How about going into cuneiform? That is the ancient writing that
I already tried.
Mystifies me because we've got tens of thousands of tablets in museums around the world that have never, ever been deciphered.
Really? I heard that they have been deciphered.
Not all of them. Tens of thousands have not. The Carpels Museum right here in Fort Wayne, in one of Zachariah Sitchin's books, it talks about a Carpels Museum in California that has those tablets in it.
Do they have any of those tablets here in town at that museum?
I think they've came through on an exhibit that only lasts for X amount of weeks or months.
There's two museums now, two Carpels.
Really?
In Fort Wayne.
Oh, okay.
Where's the other one? I just know about the one on the
Fairfield,
the
old
South
hospital.
Fairfield.
You mean the
big one, the old church.
The church, the
where
big,
we had the conference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, there's that one, and then there's another old church closer to the Southgate Mall.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
the original was a small church.
It's still
on
there.
Calhoun.
Okay.
It's not open as often. It's only for maps. But the other one that's more popular, well, I don't know how popular either one of them are. I wish they would do more advertising. We're trying to help them right now.
Yeah, whenever I drive by, they seem completely vacant.
I went in there once. The security guy was sleeping.
Yeah, it's a fascinating place. We had our conference there many years ago where I had Edward Malkowski, the late Stan Friedman was there, and some other, Frank Joseph and some others. It was a great event, and we even brought, they've got some actual stone carvings from Egypt upstairs, and we brought them downstairs, and it's a really, really nice place, and the Carpels family idea is to save all these ancient manuscripts that would have been destroyed, and it is a fascinating place. If the Fort Wayne listeners or anywhere nearby are listening, it's worth your time to come to the Carpels Museum.
I don't think a lot
spelled
of
with a
people know
K.
about it.
Karpelles. It looks like Carpelus.
Okay, yeah, because it's a really neat place.
Yeah, I'm really sad about losing Stanton Friedman.
Yeah,
that was one of the greatest conversations I ever had with him, is when we picked him up at the airport that day.
Yes, that was fascinating. Myself and Patrick went to the Detroit airport to pick up Stan, about 3 hours away, and we got 3 hours of Stan's research and how the Roswell incident was uncovered. Many people are not aware that Stan was the one who originally uncovered that. And
he was the first one to write Area 51 in a book.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and it was what a great man, and he had a
great loss.
Great loss, but he had a major
legacy,
and what he had done is being followed up by some of the great researchers like Richard Dolan and others to this very day.
Yep. It's exciting. I think this field will never get tiring.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so exciting now is, with the internet technology where we can discuss stuff and chat with people around the world, and of course many false reports also, which is sad.
Did you hear about the sorry to interrupt. Did you hear about the other second rock that they found in Lebanon? In Baalbek?
I had heard something about that. You know more of that? Yeah.
Okay, well, the biggest...
1,100 plus, 1,200 plus
Yeah,
tons.
yeah. Well, the biggest rock ever carved in the world is in Baalbek, Lebanon. Well, a few years ago, they found another one underneath it that was bigger. So how did they stack that rock on top of the other rock?
Again,
How did they move them to the temple?
you know, the ancient mysteries are just a plethora of them. And now with this satellite technology, you know, like Cambodia and Central America, Mexico, both, they're literally finding pyramids and lost cities on a weekly basis.
It's true.
And
Same in Mexico. I mean,
Yeah.
South America.
yeah, so I mean, and granted, the excavation is going to take
Years.
many more
100
years, but
years at least.
even to know they're there is, and you know, I have heard that there's less than 15% of the pyramids in Egypt have even been discovered. And
I don't know about that. I know that there's a whole lot underground that we don't know about, but I did all the research I could, and I can't see how they could have missed a pyramid unless it's way out in the desert, and by now somebody with a satellite would have found it. Unless it's covered by sand in the dunes.
That's what I'm saying. They're covered by
But
sand.
nothing
now,
near.
yeah.
But if it's near the Nile River, they know what's there.
Yeah, I think that one famous internet satellite researcher, Sarah Parkat.
Oh, yeah, I
I
heard
think his
about
name.
her.
Yeah, she is finding stuff, and there's many arguments with her because until it's excavated,
Yeah.
it's not fact. But
Till you're on the ground.
it's still very powerful. So I guess where we started this, what's next? What is you talked about the polymers. What's really next?
I'm
Patrick?
waiting for something to come up. I'm about to move to Athens, Georgia, and the last time I lived there, I had all these great ideas. It's a really educated community.
Mm-hmm.
You can always find people to talk to, try to come up with a new theory, and I don't know where the next thing is. I'll tell you what.
What are some of your ideas that you had on the back burner?
I never get tired of aliens, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly what they are and if they're there. I've seen three spacecraft or three craft that can't be identified. I don't know what they were.
Oh, nice. Where were you located at that point? Where did you see these?
Saw
guys?
two of them in Greece.
Okay.
It was we thought it was a satellite. It flew over, and I was like, "Look, a satellite!" And then it changed directions about like this and went back. So we saw two of those. But when I was in Gainesville, Florida, I saw a sphere come over a cylinder come over the horizon. It was as bright as the sun. It seemed to be lit by plasma. It had to be, because it went as slow as my hand is going right now, just slowly, and then passed over the next horizon. Just a plasma cylinder, not very far up. It was far up, not high as a plane, not nearly as high as a plane.
Wow.
And that got me interested in aliens.
That's funny you say that. When you have a chance, watch our YouTube that's at Ancient Mysteries Revisited YouTube channel.
Yes.
Our interview with Christopher O'Brien. He has started a new, technology called UFO DAP.
Yes, that's correct.
Where they put these high-tech equipment in spaces that are famous for UFO sightings, and they take nonstop pictures with high tech, so the evidence can be caught instead of us all waiting for disclosure that may never happen. It's a wonderful program.
And it sounds like he has some sort of hub where these different locations can stream live the surveillance of these craft.
That would be excellent.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
It sounds like a program that if we all got on board, we may finally get the evidence and facts we're looking for, because to keep asking the government for disclosure it just seems to be a
They'll do
waste.
it when they want to, and I think they
Yes.
got a predetermined time that they want to do it.
And it's funny because you can't talk about it in polite society, but about UFOs. But Stanton Friedman did a survey and found that the more educated you were, the more likely you believed in UFOs.
Oh, that's...
And the higher educated people, the percentage gets up to the 60s and the 70s when you get to the doctorate level. People saying, well, the evidence seems to support UFOs, whereas the less educated you are, the more willing you are going to believe the government that says there's no such thing as a UFO, although we've done tons of
Which
research
does
on
make
it.
sense, because it seems like most of the population, at least in America, is the less educated.
Well, yeah, unfortunately,
Yeah.
most of Americans probably don't believe in UFOs, or they might believe in it.
Or they're just afraid to speak out about
Right.
it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm afraid to speak about it because most people are not willing to be open-minded about
And
it.
it's like once you start speaking out, at least it used to be, it's getting more common now, but it used to be if you start speaking out about UFOs, then it kind of contaminates your theories. And
Yeah, in fact, when I was writing my books on the pyramids, my friend, the engineer, the crazy one, was like, don't include a single thing about mysticism in this book or I won't help you. He said nothing mystic. It all has to be cut and dry science. And that's why I've proved the theory that it rained on the pyramids. I just can't get the Egyptologist on board.
Well, I think that's what...
And it seems like you're not going to be able to. I mean, just because...
No, I never will.
Yeah.
And I think the community, the arena that has been built with all of us, and there's, again, political problems there too, but that aside, I think we're going a direction that we don't need those academics to do what we're doing.
I hope that's where we're going.
Yeah,
that's, it seems like it because the arena is growing more and more as time passes by.
Yeah.
And maybe the arena would be more valid than the official Egyptologists.
Because, I mean, we all try to work together to some point to uncover the truth of the ancient past, and let alone the UFO thing, which appears to be tied together. I think that is what we all want.
Yeah, for sure. And like shows like this, we're trying to keep the interest going. And it seems like
it's true.
The interest is getting more elevated and with this sort of topic and discussion.
Well, I would love to see the History Channel get a hold of me and say, we saw your numerous videos and your website, and we've already done a lot of other weird theories. Let's do yours and see what happens. You know, I wish that's what I'm waiting
picking
for.
Up more stuff like this.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I should look into that.
Yeah, we plan to have Scott Walter on very soon from the Travel Channel, where his America Unearthed TV show has been recast, and I've watched a few episodes. It's very well. He does some shows in a more modern mystery angle also, and it's a very fun show like it was before, and maybe even better. So, yeah, maybe that's Travel Channel, maybe the direction
I'll
for
look
Patrick.
at it. I'm not giving up on this. I've already written the book. I've already done the research. I'm ready to present
That's
it.
your next step, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the beauty of work like yours or like John Shaughnessy's that is really away from the other research, is when people watch it, they get on board and do their own research, and it expands and expands from there.
Hey, I was inspired by the same people that are doing what I'm doing.
Right, which almost is like what Christopher O'Brien's doing with his UFO DAP program. He's trying to get more people interested, and his system's affordable. It's like, I think, $2,000.
Yeah, like $2,500. Yeah, I mean, very affordable, especially with a group of people.
Wow.
And he wants to get all these little systems set up all over the world.
That'd be great.
And yeah, everyone can, as they see the sighting, that will be live streamed to a hub probably, which will be available online, and anybody can look at live streams of UFO sightings.
Also, anyone who doesn't really think there's any possibility of UFOs should check out the Travis Walton experience. This is the most documented UFO case in the world ever. They had five guys that were all lie detectored, and every single one passed about every single thing that happened with a real UFO encounter. One of them went on board the craft, absolutely passed every lie detector test. And he was missing for 5 days after a huge manhunt.
Oh,
and when he came back, he had not shaven for 5 days. He was totally dehydrated.
Where was this located at?
Arizona in the mountains.
Yeah, it was out west. I know that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where he was with his
Travis,
friends.
it's called the Travis Walton.
Yeah, and he disappeared.
Yeah, and that is the one book that if you don't think it's possible, then you need to read this.
Yeah, because where do you go for 5 days and come back like that?
And how do 5 guys pass a lie? The chances are 300,000 to 1 that they
Now, were
lied.
these 5 guys, were they speaking about a similar case around the same time, or?
Yeah, it all happened to all of them. Well,
Yeah,
okay.
there were 5 guys out there chopping trees for the government. And
Okay.
a UFO came, and one of the guys was brave enough. He wanted to go get a closer look. So he walked out and went out to it, and it shot a blue light and knocked him out. And the guys ran. They just thought they're next. So they ran, and they took Travis Walton into the UFO, showed him 3 or 4 other UFOs, and he was actually on board a giant cylinder UFO. It was absolutely like a mile big.
Oh, okay.
And those have been reported. So he said it's probably one of those. He didn't get to see the outside of it. And he was dropped off by a different UFO. I mean, this is a guy who didn't even know about the UFO phenomenon before it happened. Didn't even know about it.
Oh, really?
Didn't even care.
Never came across it,
Couldn't.
probably.
He was a country boy.
Yeah.
That type of stuff. Getting back to Chris.
And definitely hated the attention that came from it.
I'm going to look into that myself. I'm not familiar with that case.
No,
but
it's
that
the biggest
sounds-
one.
well, like
That
Chris-
and Betty and Barney Hill's the other big
yeah,
one.
for
Okay.
sure. That Stan Friedman was
Yeah.
definitely a big part of that. And the sad part is with abductions are a very difficult one because you have also all these people that come through. Oh, I was abducted every day since I was 7 years old. And
Oh, yeah. People just want the attention.
It's like, well, I want to sleep in your bedroom.
Right.
I'll go.
And I mean, when you see that kind of stuff, it takes away from the credible witnesses and sightings and such.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it seems like there's an unlimited amount of
Crazy.
fake stories.
Right.
Yeah, that's
And
Attention.
probably a
grabbers.
few real ones that are actually out there in the public.
There's some real ones. There's just been, I mean, when you read about the Betty and Barney Hill stuff, and the funny thing is, their experience was almost the same as Travis Walton's. Almost identical, 50 years or 40 years apart, something like that.
Okay.
Almost identical experiences.
well. The whole idea is if everybody, and I mean the human race is bad about teaming up and getting on board, but like Chris's UFO DAP and what we're doing with the pyramids and the ancient, trying to figure out who these global ancient society was. If we all get on board on the same page, we have a much better chance on finding the truth.
Well, there's always going to be a million opinions.
Opinions are great.
Yeah.
I really,
and different governments
Yeah.
stopping you.
I don't have a problem with opinion. That's why I really like the books that were written in the 1800s, early 1900s, where they weren't influenced by media. And that's
Right.
opinions are great. It's when you say, hey, I'm right, you're wrong, and we're not talking.
Well, I
anymore.
like the UFO reports that go back before media, like 1300s, 1800s.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, look at ancient paintings and stuff like that.
Right.
Like even like during medieval times.
Right.
There's
yeah.
a lot of
They're
UFOs
in there.
in the
Yeah,
paintings.
the Annunciation of Mary.
Yeah,
is-
I've seen it. Yes.
The beam is coming from a UFO. It's
Yeah,
not coming
yeah.
from an angel.
Right.
It's like, what the heck is that?
Like, why did you even
And
do
these are
that?
like in cathedrals and stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a friend that grew up in, I guess, northern Greece, Macedonia area, and he says there was a church in his small town that had a painting very, very similar to that.
Wow.
I mean, I'd love to go back with him there and see that place.
which makes you think, were these original religious stories based on UFOs and
Probably.
ancient aliens?
Probably all of them.
And they just wanted a more human-like story?
Well, that's the ancient alien theory,
right.
is that they all were based on UFO encounters. Almost every single one of them. Every single religion, major religion, seems to be saying, he came down in a flying craft that made a bunch of noise and blew up and blew wind everywhere and fire. It wasn't a rocket, though. It was God. God uses rockets,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
It's got to be in the spirit realm or it's not real.
In my opinion, it's got to be 100% spiritual. If there's anything mechanical or involving gleaming things like that prophet saw, not Elijah, but Enoch, whatever. I mean, if it looks like a gleaming piece of metal with fire shooting from it, I'm not calling that a religious experience. I'm calling that a UFO experience.
Exactly.
But
Very
it
true.
was religious for them.
Oh, of course. How do you explain that?
Well, I mean, and I think that's where Eric von Däniken started a lot of his work. Is when you read all these ancient texts, those people didn't know what they saw. They didn't think like we think. They used, a very ancient language. And how do we decipher it? It's a tough deal. In fact, me and Rodney had just went out to a restaurant bar the other day, and I had gotten the books of Enoch right from here in the library, and I read through them, and wow,
I
that's
know.
a tough deal.
No wonder it's not in the Bible, right?
Well,
I mean,
Enoch
it's just
is in the
tough on
Bible, but Enoch is the person that says in the Bible who went with God before he died, which sounds like an alien abduction.
And there's another story, I forget which prophet or whatever, went up with God, and God showed him what the earth looked like as you got farther away, and he said it turned into pea soup, and then it turned into vapors, and this is what it looks like when you're leaving the earth in a spaceship.
Yeah.
Well,
If you're with God and you're going away from the earth, it's you're there. You don't have to get in a spaceship.
Yeah. Exactly.
apparently you're wrong.
Which it's bizarre because this stuff is in the Bible.
Yeah, I know. That's why I love it.
when
Look
you're
at the
talking-
Indian Sanskrit stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Talking about how the machines worked.
Right.
I mean,
how they were piloted.
Missiles being shot at, what the pilots wore, how they pressurized the cabins. I mean, it's all there.
And I mean, that's written down like 400 BC and who knows how much
Exactly.
older it
Before
truly
people
is.
even thought mechanical devices could even exist.
Right. They were writing about them.
Yeah.
And those Indian Sanskrit stuff goes back like 8,000 years. And then they wrote the history like 3,000 years ago. But they're saying this happened way, way, way in our past.
And didn't they have certain hieroglyphs too that kind of
Well, that's the
pictured UFOs?
Well,
and-
you might be thinking of the Egyptian ones at the Temple of Seti in Abydos.
Oh, okay,
They
yeah.
actually have a helicopter,
Right.
a hydroplane-looking thing, and a UFO-looking thing. And, of course, they've been described as hieroglyphics that were just very creative.
Wasn't that the same place that had that dinosaur-looking one?
No,
too?
no, that's
In fact-
Tapram Temple in Angkor.
Oh, that was
Thom.
in Angkor? Okay.
Yeah, I've got many pictures. I've been there several times, and you can look at that picture from every angle and every thought process, and it surely looks like a stegosaurus.
Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that.
I mean, who would people, if the Angkor people were only a couple thousand years ago, how did they know what a stegosaurus outside of the bones looked like, or were there stegosauruses there currently? I
Who
mean, that's
knows?
an argument too.
That's a whole other thing.
People have even talked about seeing, like a pterodactyl in modern times. So,
With that in
another
mind,
mystery.
like us researchers, we're just seekers of the truth.
Yeah,
It
that's all we
boils
want.
down to it.
That's all we want.
Yeah.
And we
And-
want to have a good time at it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. If it's not fun, I'm not doing it. That is why I don't have much interest in going to certain sites, because I see no fun outside of the ancient structure.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, for sure. That's the whole
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, I didn't want to go to certain places in Egypt to see the pyramids because there were military camps.
Oh, too much anxiety would happen.
It
Yeah.
was just, you never know. I mean, knowing what I know about the people living in Cairo, the men that want to take advantage of you constantly, every turner, everywhere you go, I would not want to be alone out at Dashur.
Oh, not at all.
Yes.
I'd go with a tour group.
But no, in Ancient Mystery Revisited, that is really what we're looking for, is getting different specialists on the show. We like to use the word specialist versus expert, because what truly is an expert?
I like that.
Your experience is really which makes you a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And with every show, I want to tell the listeners too, on our Facebook site, if you have questions or different guests you'd like to see on the show, please send us a message. We'd love to hear from you and see what you think.
I'd love for you to try to get an interview with David Ovitz. I
would love
emailed
to-
him.
Yeah, because that would be very important, because as I said, we've been dealing with Jeffrey, who doesn't have the on-site experience like Joseph would. So yeah, I agree. I think I will be trying to contact him.
Patrick, how long do you think you'll be here in Fort Wayne?
Until it gets cold again.
That's
I don't want to be here for another winter.
very understandable.
Yeah, I
My
resemble
God.
that remark. I think that's why
Especially
I moved,
last year's winter, that
Oh.
was insane.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
I think that's
40
why I
minus
moved,
40.
moved
And
to
it
the
lasted
tropical islands.
forever almost.
Oh, it was a 9-month winter. I don't
No,
care what
actually,
anyone says.
when Patrick come in here, we met with one of the board members of the public library here, and we have been discussing having a small local conference here at the library sometime in the next few months, and if we can put it together, we will, so stay tuned.
Cool.
I got access to other sites if the library doesn't work out.
Oh,
There's a big Masonic temple here in town.
Oh,
that
cool,
we
yeah, I
could-
saw
Yeah,
that.
we can rent out at a
really?
decent price. We can rent out one of the rooms there.
I have
and
always
a big
wanted to go
conference.
in there.
Yeah.
That's one of the most beautiful buildings in Fort Wayne.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Get with me after the show. I can maybe give you a tour of that soon.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
In fact, talking of a big conference, if any of the listeners have any connections to rooms, we can bring in almost any any speaker, any researcher, author. The problem is putting them up is the greatest expense of these conferences.
Well, yeah.
And so if we can get help there, we can do it.
Well, for your radio show, you could just Skype.
No, I mean for a
conference, right?
For a conference.
Yeah, because that's what we normally do with outside guests.
Oh,
We'll
I
Skype
see.
them,
Yeah, that's right. I'm the.
Yeah, you're the first one in the studio.
Indoor
that's
guest.
pretty neat. This has been very, very.
Well,
neat.
that's why I asked you how long you're going to be in Fort Wayne. If you want, you could more than welcome to join us again in the studio.
Oh, I would love
Future
to.
shows.
I'll be here until it gets really cold.
Okay.
Like in the beginning when it's cold, I don't care. It's just when it gets to the point.
Yeah, below
Where
75.
You
that's
can't
when I
walk to the
start
store, you
Yeah,
know.
below 75
yeah.
degrees. That's when I start getting
Yeah,
cold.
Oh,
You'll have to start using Amazon grocery delivery.
no.
Yeah, little drone's gonna drop your groceries down
Right.
on top of your house.
That would be cool.
I got a friend that actually uses the Amazon grocery delivery. He's
Really?
up in Chicago.
Okay.
And they actually can deliver to your house, and if you trust them, they'll deliver inside your house while you're not there. And,
You're kidding.
Yeah, and put it on your counter
In
and
your refrigerator.
I love it.
They could do it to your car too. They could drop it off, put it in your car, and leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my.
So it's not all drones. It's actually people.
Not yet. There will be drones.
Yeah,
Probably in
they're
the future.
fighting that.
When those people, when they're tired of paying those people, then the drones will happen.
Yeah.
And the air traffic, and they have to get that all settled too.
Yeah, they're going to have trouble. It's why we
Yeah.
don't have flying cars now. We don't want a bunch of people flying cars in the air right now.
Right.
They're like I think there's a commercial on where I forget what the product is, where the windshield gets hit by a drone.
Oh, that's funny. Well, probably not to them.
Well, that probably wraps up our show for the day. Patrick, where can our listeners get a hold of you or check out? Do you have a website or anything, or are you mainly on YouTube?
Yeah, that's Rain Pyramids. It's just
Okay.
one word, Rain Pyramids. It's a Google site, which in most cases with a Google site, you have to type in Google Sites first. But because I'm the only one after 10 years that has written about rain pyramids, all you have to do is type in that and you'll find everything I've ever done.
So
Okay.
If you want to reach me, you can do it through the website.
Okay, so they can reach you
With
and
an
ask
email.
questions
With
and
an
such.
email.
Okay, cool.
That'd be the best place for them to purchase your books as well. Or
You
is there
can
another
purchase my
site?
books at thebookpatch.com,
Okay.
and also they'll be available at Barnes & Noble in 2020.
Oh, nice.
They were available on Amazon. I pulled all the books off because that's a long story, but I prefer to use a different site.
Okay, understandable. I'll post some links to your stuff on our Facebook page as well,
Thanks.
and yeah, give our listeners a better idea what you're into and some visuals.
I'll leave all that information for you.
Sounds good.
Very cool. Well, hey, we have really appreciate you being in the studio, and we've been our talk kind of got away from pyramids
It's
for
all
a
right.
while, but
That's all right. It's hard to
part
talk
of who we
about.
are.
Yeah, that's
I
kind
enjoyed
of our
it.
style. It's more of
Yeah.
a social atmosphere.
I love
here.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing we're missing is a keg of beer.
Yeah, and in the public.
That could happen in the future. Right now, I'm in the process of developing an actual studio in my house.
Oh, yeah.
And we could do this in my house and
Oh,
we could
really?
drink and have a good time.
Can't do that in the public library.
No, we don't want to do that. None of us drink that heavily anyway.
Oh, my.
No, exactly.
That was fun. Thanks for having me in.
Thanks for
All right,
joining us,
appreciate
and
it.
we definitely look forward to you coming in the studio again in the future.
Thanks. Well, anytime.
All right, until next time, we'll see you again.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
That was Patrick Giles. I am Rodney McGillvary,
I'm Bruce Cunningham.
and we are Ancient Mysteries Revisited here on Wealth 95.7 FM in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Where we come to you every Monday and Wednesday at 2 a.m. EST, streamed at www.acpl.info/WELT.
You can find us on YouTube. Just search up Ancient Mysteries Revisited, and you can check out our website at www.ancientmysteriesrevisited.wordpress.com. And we'll see you next time. Until then, have a good one.